You're listening to Bedroom Beethovens, where notable music makers break down stories accompanied by songs and melodies documenting growth through their 10,000-hour journey. And me? Well, my name is Cello, your host.
I am a bedroom Beethoven.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 134 of the podcast. My guest this week is...
My name is Jon Hope. I'm an artist, I'm a father, I'm an educator, community figure based out of Providence, Rhode Island. And notable collaborations, my early stuff with Static Selector. Static Selector discovered me. Did some work with Skazoo, Torre. Also worked with Bongo, by the way, still do.
AKA G-Man.
Whoa, yeah, AKA G-Man, yeah, definitely. That's the first one right there. That was the first iteration.
That fire burning, I hear them tires turning. I got my game from the streets, I call it higher learning. You know those rumors about the truth, that's why them liars hurting. These rappers watching all my moves, getting that motion sickness. I get it popping without the lip gloss, cause I'ma do it big or darker Chris North. This ain't no pity song, just give me titty thumbs. And I ain't fully dressed until I put my city on. Jon Hope, Project English teacher, I return for the first time. Yes, it's oxymoron, it won't be before long till I'm at the tip top. I prefer the Magnum when I'm fucking with this hip hop. I used to love her, she tried to kiss me, made a 180, she wanted 360. You must be out your fucking mind, or something's in your fucking mind.
Project English teacher, entrepreneur extraordinaire Jon Hope swings by to give us a dose of that hope shit as we talk about his life and times in music, and life in Providence leading up to his new body of work. Because it is this exact experience that has been the catalyst for creating something for everyone, it is impossible to listen to a project from Jon Hope and not find something you enjoy. I'm talking trap-infused anthems to more rough and rugged underground sounding cuts. Jon Hope is versatile and exudes raw talent. That's why if you just remember the old boom bap Jon Hope from the early to mid 2010s, you aren't fully prepared to hear Jon in 2021. And that's why I'm here. So make sure you visit bedroombeethovens.com. It is the website of the podcast where you'll find all the goodies of the show like social media, archives of previous episodes, and you can subscribe to the platform of your choice. Also, to keep the show chugging along, you can support the show by visiting patreon.com/bedroombeethovens. And look, times are tough. The virus seems to be kicking our ass again, so if life is rough and you can't donate anything, that doesn't mean I don't appreciate you any less. So thank you for tuning in and listening, and above all else, I hope you guys are safe. Thanks for joining me and Jon on this candid conversation, episode 134. Let's get it. Well, and then you mentioned fatherhood. Big ups to both of us because we're raising kids in the pandemic.
Yes.
Hope, right?
Yup, Hope. Yeah, that's my daughter.
Yeah, man. I'm raising daughters too. I think fatherhood looks very good on you from what I've seen. You seem to be enjoying it, and
Yeah.
I'm happy that Hope is here and we don't have a Little B soliloquy part 2, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, man, we ain't got that, man. Nah, we don't need that at all, man. Nah. Thank you, though.
All right, so I'm glad that I got you at this point in your life. You seem like everything's aligning, and you've been on a lot of podcasts. And I hope you didn't just cast a wide net because I was honored that you chose to be here. Like I said, I've been listening to you for over a decade. The reason why I say I hope you didn't cast a wide net is because, man, you've been everywhere. You were even on a real estate podcast not too long ago. Your visibility is like way up.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's funny you mentioned my daughter because I've been really intentional about leaving digital footprints for her, man, and so I've just been I don't want to sound morbid or anything like that, but I just want to just leave a footprint, let her know what I'm thinking what my, what my intentions are in this world. You know what I mean? So like it's just, for me, it's not necessarily about casting a wide net, but it's just more or less like, look, like I'm blessed with a God-given ability. And, there are people that want to, talk about it, and there are opportunities to talk about it and to talk about my, my process and things of that nature. So I don't really pass up any chance, but I am very also, I look forward to conversations where it's the nuances, man. So once already the stuff that you've already talked about and you've already mentioned, I'm like, this ain't no, run of the mill type shit.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. So there's been a lot of overlap. Devo Springsteen was on this podcast who had an interlude.
Wow.
Oh yeah, who was a monster, by the way. And a lot of people, because I think he went to like Columbia Business School, so his path kind of broke off from music. But he had an interlude on your Audacity mixtape. Your mom is from Sierra Leone. Devo won a Grammy for Diamonds from Sierra Leone for Kanye West. So it's almost kind of serendipitous a little bit.
It really is. Shout out to Devo, man. He saw the Jon Hope thing early. Like he got it. He got it. It wasn't a convincing. We had a mutual friend. He had an intern who found me on MySpace. And that intern made the connection. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We had a phone call, and he was just telling me about a lot of stuff. He was very like cutting edge, and he was very the whole tech space and music relationship merging. Like he was into that early back then. And some of the stuff, even now that I think about it, he called it. But he really was like, he was a genuine supporter of mine, man. Like he really got it. Like he was like, yo, I really like your whole thing, man. So shout out to him, man.
Yeah, you got some good people in your corner. I also had a conversation with Willpower too, and I think he's underrated too. So you mess with the right people. He was on the show too, so you're messing with the right people for sure. And I mentioned your mom is from Sierra Leone. She came to the United States for better opportunities, which is saying something, because she raised 3 kids alone and worked multiple jobs in order to do so. But here's the amazing thing. She put all 3 kids, correct me if I'm wrong, through private school. And she dropped out of college so you could have the opportunity to eventually get a master's degree. I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, man. Shout out to my mother, man. She she because she had me so young, we have a very almost homey, brotherly like, sisterly like kind of relationship. I'm truly grateful, man, because she was just trying to figure it out. There was really no rhyme or reason. She just knew that education was the key, but she was really trying to figure it out. I can't even imagine some of the things that she went through, so young, coming to this country, you know what I mean, with little to no resources, man. And I'm forever indebted to her, man. I really. There's no way you could pay it back. That Pac line is so loaded, man. It's so true, though.
And at one point, did you have a foster mother?
Yeah, I bounced around. So when I left, when they took us away from my parents, my mom, my father rather, he's not really in the picture. He wasn't in the picture. So my brother and sister, their father was in the picture. So they went to their father. And I eventually went to him, but it didn't quite work out. And then I bounced around. I went to this white family, and I was there for maybe 2 days. And then I went to a group home, and there was a woman we called her Nana, and she was amazing. She was amazing. She took in they might have been 14 of us, all in this one home, and she fed us. She did all that she could, man. She was her and her husband.
But they wanted, like, all the kids that they had, they wanted it to be kind of this gray lifestyle. Like, even though you're a first generation African, they didn't want you to identify with the lifestyle of a Black American. And first off, I didn't even know that there was microaggressions between Africans and Black Americans.
Yeah.
Where I grew up, I didn't know even that was a thing.
Yeah, it really is. The treatment that I received, it was very much predicated upon, you got to think the 80s and the 90s. It was very because the way we consume media was so linear, right? It was just TV, and you just got, whatever was disseminated, right? And it was just like there wasn't enough representation in the media about being African, about blackness. And so, what you were seeing was, these Sally Fields commercials, about donating $1 to these malnourished Africans and things of that nature, and then just the idea of being dark skinned, having a long last name, having a long middle name, just the relationship between Africa and Black Americans here in the United States is just was at that time was very, very, very dismal. And so the way it manifested, man, was just like I did not have the African accent. I didn't wear, the garb in the wardrobe, so it was almost a confusion. It was like, man, this dude talks like us, but then, when you see how his mother comes out the house and his mom has an accent, and, you see the food that he's eating and the smell on his clothes, it was like this, oh, you're not a real African, or you're not like those other Africans that we see. So it was just like backhanded compliments mixed with, being dark skinned, and it was tough, man. It was tough. It was tough. And it's funny because looking back, the treatment that I got in terms of racism and being felt less than, and, inadequate, it really was from the majority of it was from my Black friends and my Black counterparts. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really what it was. And so that was a real, real hard thing. And so I, for the longest, would mask, and because I was like, okay, I'm just going to act, I'm going to be Black American, you know what I mean? And I would hide my middle name. I would tell people that my middle name is Michael, you know what I mean? Just to kind of like fit in. So it took a toll on me. It really did.
And I want people, like, I don't know, I guess for me, when I think of Rhode Island, I think of the burbs, but that's not the case. Like, even if I go back to the Glen Arbor apartment days, like, if I just type in Providence, Rhode Island, I get headlines in the past 3 days alone. 11 people have been wounded. A man died. I'm talking about like Camp Street. 2 men got shot in broad daylight across from the Billy Taylor Park. So I read about Cranston and Comstock Parkway, and it's a pretty rough area.
Yeah. I mean, just, there was a triple shooting yesterday or the day before. A young girl on the east side, right near the Camp Street. She just got killed in a drive-by, innocent girl. So yeah, I mean, it's very real, and it's so funny because like I was talking to this woman. I was in Atlanta, and I was trying to tell her, like, so on my flight to Atlanta, I was telling her how, the whole flight was PVD, and it was hood. It was like the whole South Side that was on the flight. It was a hood ass. It was like Soul Plane, and she couldn't really grasp that. She was like, well, I don't know what, like what is the hood in Providence? And for me, it's like, yo, it really is like any other, hood that you would think in a metropolitan city. Obviously there's scales and there's levels to it, right? I would never try to say that Providence is like Chicago or Compton or whatever, but per capita, we're one of the most violent cities.
I'm trying to avoid the cliches and the hood rats. I'm trying to avoid the goon niggas cause they could blast. And you ain't got the answers, but I still ask. Cause all I do is question when the news flash. Channel 6 and 7, 8 of my niggas gone. 9 times out of 10, 11-year-olds hear eulogies performed. This a song to my city, mentally absorbed. Timing in the rough between the Boston and New York. I know it's hard for you to say it. The ghetto's a mosaic. When radio hears soul, it's hard for them to play.
I won't say, I definitely won't sit here and say that the experiences are not real. For lack of better words, we get busy, and it's been like that for the longest. And right now, what you're seeing in the city right now is heavy. Like where the mayor in the city is getting support from the state police now about intervention. Like it's crazy right now in the city, and I hope that it could dwindle and be quelled. But we're in a pandemic. People are hungry.
It makes a lot of sense now that I'm putting stuff in context, because I saw I don't know if it was a rant, it was more of a call of awareness about people saying that they're real niggas. And that's a product of their environment. You mentioned the mayor. That mayor, George Alorza, he refuses to issue any comment or discuss any murders or acknowledges the state of Providence. And that gives these people who are part of their environments more confidence to go out there and do the things and be real and be street. They say if you go on Carolina Avenue at any given time, it's littered with bullet casings. So you don't even have to go far to find these, quote unquote people, these hood people. And then from your point of view, it's a mentality. It's a plague that's spreading.
And I don't know if it's a situation where now I'm older. I never want to talk down. I want to talk with. This idea of being real is such a misguided thing, because we have artists, we have these young kids that are like, making songs about dead homies. You know what I'm saying? We have people that now it's really like upping the score. I mean, it's really, catching a body is like, it's like points. Like, and I mean that. I'm not trying to be descriptive or anything, but literally that's how the mentality is. Like, yo, all right, you got mine, you up one, I'm gonna get yours. You know what I'm saying? And you up two. So this mentality where life is so cheap, I don't know. I think it's a real, it's a byproduct of social media. You know what I mean? Like, nobody really wants to feel like they're being made fun of, or they don't want to be like, put on front street, for the world to see, right? Because there's so much at stake in terms of your pride. Like, you can, catch a beat down and now someone posts it and it could go viral. These things, when you add that into the element, people just don't care, man. And so I don't know what the remedy is, right? And that's why I say I want to talk with, because I don't know. I'm not sitting here saying that I have the solution, but I just know, like, we're losing kids at a young rate. You know what I mean? Like, we're losing kids 13, 14. My mentee, I mentor some young men. My mentee, he's about to do like 15, only 18. He's going to jail. And the week before that, he got shot, and his uncle got shot right next to him, and a 14-year-old kid got killed. So his uncle and a 14-year-old kid got killed. He survived, and then now he's going to jail. And these are like real stories, real situations. You know what I'm saying? So this idea of real, we gotta make it cool, and we gotta make it dope to want to live. That's really what it is, because the definition of real as it stands is going to cut your life short, before you even reach 25. You know what I mean?
So like when you were a teen and like you got kicked out of middle school, what percentage of that was you trying to keep it real?
Man, that's such a good question. I think it was a lot. It was probably like 85%, like trying to be something that I'm not, because here's the crazy thing. I was actually very good in school, like academically, like I was like very, very high performing, but I was under the mentality that being smart was corny. I would overcompensate. Like, I would get into a fight or talk reckless to a teacher just to kind of balance out this high academic performing component of my life. You know what I'm saying? So it was corny, man. It was corny. Like I was definitely posing. I was definitely, faking the funk and trying to front, man. You know what I mean? And I'm glad I realized early enough that like that shit ain't cool.
So when you're talking to these kids or mentoring them, is it more so like guiding them to success, or more so helping them out with life? Like, I know that you can rationalize a lot of your teachings by pulling from hip hop. Like, if I say, John, I've been grinding for 10 years and I'm still not put on, you can say, well, it took Jay-Z 10 years too. But this era was right. His era was different than our era. It took 2 Chainz 17 years to get on. But what percentage of people are rapping from age 18 to 35, hoping to sign a deal nowadays? Or if I start at 18, nobody's going to have the mentality Like, hey, if it takes me 17 years, it takes me 17 years. These people are the microwave generation where they want results now. So how do you deal with that?
I think for me, that's a really good point, man, because that's I think the good thing is I would have to convince them and show them that the metrics for success are more visible now than even back when I first started, right? So you now more than ever, man, these kids they know how to turn 1 to 2. You know what I'm saying? So, I would show them like, yo, you can start out with music, but you can create your own merch. You can create your own podcast. You can create your own, and so you can see success in more ways than one. You could be, multi hyphenated, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's just showing them that there are other avenues based off music. So if music, which is probably the primary way that you want to get on, I'll show them that, yo, you can use the music as a catalyst for other opportunities, because a lot of times their metric for success is money, right? So if I could quell their desire or their reliance on money, then that will open up some other doors. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of times, a lot of people quit because they're not making money off music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was one topic that you talked about, which was alignment, that I think is very underrated. I think for me, the reason why, and this is debatable, that I think Jay-Z is great is because he released the blueprint the same day as the 9/11 attacks. He couldn't have planned that naturally, but the album became a source of hope for the hip hop community. The album sold 420,000 copies its first week. So it's, first off, it symbolized that not even terrorists could stop Jay. And then he donated a large amount of the profits to firefighters and 9/11 charity events, which made him the king of New York. Mm-hmm. So I don't care that 9/11 is a national tragedy. That was luck. Then he turned it into alignment. Mm-hmm. And that's a smart businessman. That's something that you can't really teach.
Right.
So, you like you have your own clothing line. You have these hip hop educational initiatives, Hope Scholars. You're doing pilot television. You might as well be married to Beyonce. You get it. Rihanna was announced a billionaire last week. Right. 330 million was from music and 700 million was from her clothing line. Right. So it ain't really about the music anymore. It's about a brand.
It's about a brand. Absolutely. It's about a brand. And that's something that it took me a minute, probably after my work in progress project in 2012, that I started to really like get a grasp of that notion of what it means to be a brand and what it means to open yourself up to other opportunities. You know what I mean? It's so important. And it gives you almost like an extra added lifeline. Jay-Z is a great example. Rihanna is a great example. But I think specifically Nas is a really good example of like how he was able to not only did he just drop, these last 2 King's Disease projects that are, well received and so forth. Say what you want about the music, all right? That's whatever. But Nas as a brand is like very relevant. Like he is like really up right now. He diversified, he's doing the tech stuff. He, mass appeal. He's putting out successful artists, Dave East, all this other stuff, the Hennessy stuff. And like his trajectory, if he didn't do that, I think we would look at Nas like a LL Cool J, right? Like someone that's lauded, someone that we appreciate, but has this like old school appeal. Like Nas now is like he's relevant to the kids. Like you don't really look at like, yeah, he's an OG, but like because of his the way he kind of like took over his brand and really was, intentional about certain things after Life is Good, like that really was what really inspired me. Like I was like, yo, Nas, the way his moves and a lot of, between Nipsey and Nas, a lot of my moves are definitely inspired by their moves. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what really helped me as an independent artist, as someone that doesn't have that level of visibility, because to be independent and older is tough, right? Like, you know what I mean? That's a different ball game, because you have people that you're not really on the traditional mediums, right? Like if I was on TV or if I was on, large platforms, then people would be able to make sense of, oh, okay, Hope is, he's doing his thing. But I'm not on these large, huge, large platforms. And so it would be very easy if I was just relying on a linear path for someone to be like, man, Hope, what's going on? You kind of, you might want to give it up. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really get that because, I've been able to diversify and extend my brand.
When you came out, you referred to Showoff as your second family, but there hasn't been much overlap in a decade. And I've noticed that Static used to embrace the underground. And now when I see his albums, it's far from the underground. Can I ask you what happened between you and Static?
That's so funny. That is a really good question, right? Because there's so much irony in this. Here's what happened, and I'm gonna keep it real. When I first got with Static at the time, it was I understood my role and I understood my place, right? There's terminology, there's Rex, those were the sort of flagship guys, you know what I mean? And then there was me. And with Static, I mean with Term and Rex, their musical palette was very much reduced to the boom bap. What you get from Term now is what you got back then. Same goes for Rex. Is the boom bap. 3 verses, scratches, whatever. That's what you got. And same with Static, right? And that's what they sort of relied on, and that was their bread and butter. That's their brand. With me, I grew up in that. I love it. I can do it. I could rap like that, time and time again. But I also had Bongo, and at the time his name was Tactics. I had Bongo who did not fully subscribe to that, and he would always tell me, he'd be like, yo, man, that shit is cool, but that shit ain't gonna get you Grammys or whatever. You gotta, he would always encourage me to, to spread, musically and creatively. And so when you would hear me on a Static record, it would sound like a Jon Hope and Static record, right? But then when you would hear me and Bongo, you would hear, heavy musicianship, chords, singing at the hook, melody, things of that nature. And so it got to a point where Static, you could kind of see through his actions that, he wasn't open to that creative aspect of me. And so he didn't really put all his investment in me because he knew that I had this other side of my creative brand.
But I hate you at the same time. Jon Hope. See the 8-ball, they say more niggas, more crime, more guns, more crack, more lines to sniff, more money from Piff. I know it's funny, but if I make it, they label me a sellout and Uncle Tom. But what about John? I pay my dues without the use of credit cards. I don't want to be confined to the burden that you bring. But deep inside you rejoice when I sing. I'm a product, not a victim of the place that I was born. No glove when I catch 22, I'm torn.
You know what I mean? Like he was like, yo, I rock with you, Jon Hope, da-da-da. But he would never fully give me the same push like Term and Rex and whatnot. Even though there were conversations about it throughout the camp. People on his team would be like, yo, man, Hope, how come Static ain't, you know what I mean? Like those questions were asked, and so then it just got to a point where, there were, I don't know if it was miscommunications or whatever, but like, he unfollowed me. Then one time, I tried to come up to the studio at Shea 45 to push my project, and it just kind of fell on deaf ears, and that's really what happened, man. And I think it was just creative differences at the time. Ironically, now he's in the space that I was at, almost 10 years ago. Now you see him working with 2 Chainz. You see him, even his production has evolved to something that's a little bit more melodic and a little bit more open and a little bit more trendy, you know what I mean? In his own right. Fast forward, with the release of Hope All Is Well, he actually supported the record. He played it on his show. So I think, without speaking to each other, things have come full circle. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Like it was I would say creative differences were the reason why we didn't work together for a long time.
That's unfortunate. And I guess, when you were very young, it might have been naive to call them your second family when, if they don't agree with something that you're doing creatively, they stop picking up the phone.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the music industry for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And but it's one of those things where that's why relationships are so key, because many of the guys he has a new team now, he's with Rock Nation, but many of the people that were on his initial team, I still talk to, and they supported me, and they still, helped me out, because there was never like a falling out or anything like that. I never disrespected him. I always give him love and whatnot. But, I really like the way that you frame the question, which is why you get this very honest answer. But that's the reality of it. And now, like I said, without speaking to each other, I would like to say we're good, because, he supported the record, THS, and he showed a lot of love multiple times. People would call me and be like, "Yo, Static was talking really highly about you, particularly about my longevity."
Was this the production deal that you walked away from, where you ended up quitting, or was this something else?
No, that was a situation in Atlanta. In Atlanta, I was working with Tree Sound at the time, and a guy by the name of Groove Chambers and Molly out of Houston. And that's kind of where I met Will. That's where I met Will. And this was like probably the most notable studio in the country, to be quite honest. When J. Cole had the Dreamville situation, the Golden Ticket, that studio is where I was working out of. Like that where all the artists would come down, like I was working out of there. Kendrick was down there, early TDE, early Rhapsody, Big Sean, Saha the Prince, all of it. It was like this big rap boot camp. Everybody was working out of there, and the people who ran the studio I was being managed by them, and it didn't work out, and that's when I quit. That's when I came back to Rhode Island, and I took some time off and went back to grad school.
Yeah, if that production deal worked out, Hope Scholars might never have existed.
Exactly. It's all. I mean, they call it a career for a reason, man. Like so much. There's so much to the story. So much to the story. I do ask myself, like, imagine if I really stopped at that point. Like, like there's a whole nother chapters, that plural that I probably, would be missing out on.
I would love for you and Emily Sandy to collab, because she kind of has a similar background too. She's in academia too. She's a chancellor of a university now.
Is she? Yo, that's dope. She has one of my favorite records with Nas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what's up.
Yeah, you guys would be perfect, man. And I know you were, a guidance counselor at a high school. You worked at Rhode Island College.
Yeah.
It's funny, a lot of these tenors at Rhode Island institutes, you actually dropped out and transferred to Virginia Union University. So by kind of working there and getting your master's there, it's almost like, I'm righting some wrongs.
Exactly.
Look at me.
Exactly. Definitely righting some wrongs, man. And it's all about the journey of self, really, right? All these things are just like me trying to find myself, trying to find what it is that I do best, what it is, like what's the optimal form of myself, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how I ration all these things. Atlanta, dropping out of school, getting kicked out, or just like all these episodes of my life, it's all about like trying to find myself. That's really how I look at it now.
And I feel like these are stories that would have been in How I Landed in France, but that book never came out, right?
Yeah, nah, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna work on that, man. Yeah. These stories would be in that story. How I Landed in France really is a metaphor. I was dating a woman, and I was so narrow-minded. I never wanted to travel, and she broke up with me. She was like, yo, and I was like begging her to come back, and she was like, yo, I'll only date you if you travel. Like, you know, open your mind, which really she was trying to say, open your mind. All you want to do is be in the hood, or do like very like low vibrant. When I went to Paris, man, you know, I talk about how I landed in France, like how I got to the point where I wanted to be open-minded and try new things and expand my mind. So yeah, man, I would definitely have all these stories in that, man. Thank you for the reminder, by the way.
Well, I'll stop asking you more questions because I don't want to ruin the book deal in the future. So we covered a lot, though, and I think now it's time to tell people about the new project, the new music. You know, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Thank you. So hope all is well. Really excited about this body of work. It's out now on all streaming platforms and also on my website, jonhopepvd.com. It's such a good body of work that I look at it as a reintroduction. I was trying to figure out internally, like how how would I be able to musically navigate in this landscape? And it took for a pandemic, it took for a lot of like self-reflection for me to like really figure out like who I am and what I want to say. And this is the end result. This is what you get. You know, shout out to Jim Jones. He's featured on there. I got Bongo by the Way on there. I got OT the Real out of Philly. I got my man Rags the artist, my bro C's, really super talented individuals. Shout out to Watts and shout out to Danny Keys, who really helped me sonically tell my story. And you know, a great introduction or a great window into Hope All Is Well would probably be THS, which stands for that hope shit. And it's just a good insight onto some of the things that I had to deal with and some of the things that I'm trying to like rationalize as a new father, you know, as somebody who just is co-parenting. You know, I'm not with my daughter's mom, and still trying to like push forward in my career. Like, you know, it was such a timestamp. Like, it was like, okay, like I'm about to be a dad. You know, what does this look like? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does this look like? And so Hope All Is Well, man, is really a great body of work, man, a good listen. So I really recommend that to anybody who wants to be inspired. You know, it's if you want to be inspired and you believe in yourself, this is the right record for you.
And I'm going to link people to the syllabus too with your workshops. I don't know if you're still actively doing it, but look, man, rap's hard, man. There's no retirement plans. There's no pension, wills, 401ks. And if you want to establish a business plan, if you want to just learn from the man, I'm going to have that in the show notes.
Thank you.
And John, thank you for your time, man. I mean, you drop gems, which aren't always free. You have books where people pay to read your wisdom. People go to your workshops to hear your wisdom. So I don't take it for granted, man. I appreciate you.
Yo, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate this, man. This really been good conversation, man.